Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports in the Briefing in remembrance and tribute to David Gold by Tom Donahue. My tribute to the late, great talk show host, David Gold. But he was a pioneer prior to Rush Limbaugh. He was on KLIF radio in the Dallas-Fort Worth marketplace, and I tuned in as a listener, and he deeply impacted my life, and I'm going to explain in what I wrote in this tribute. When I learned that David Gold had passed, I was surprised and saddened. I do not use Facebook regularly, but when I did, I would see David sharing his daily routine and observations on the weather, sports scores, and of course, politics. Then I noticed I had not seen anything from him for some time. So as I searched, I came across in the industry press the mention of his death. It hit me hard. Not that I was family or even a close friend, but he affected profoundly my eventual radio career path. I was a young and very idealistic, politically aware activist who organized gatherings for speeches and meetings and rallies and founded a liberty-based group called the American Liberty Association. I would book our speakers on radio and television shows and news stations for interviews. The David Gold Show was on KLIF, and it was the most popular conservative talk show in the 1980s in the Dallas-Fort Worth media marketplace. David was a conservative libertarian, but many considered him, and I think he did to some extent, a Reagan Republican. He was open to our brand of controversial and even conspiratorial authors and speakers. He never wavered on addressing controversial topics or guests. I fondly remember his casual attire and his friendly dog by his side in the studio. He always allowed me to sit in for those interviews with our special guests that I brought over to the studio, and he would freely promote their books and their speaking engagements for our sponsored events. David was even a featured speaker for one of our events in Dallas. He gladly accepted our invitation without requesting a speaker's fee. There were two prominent political guests I booked on David's show that he seemed to really appreciate. That was Ron Paul, Libertarian presidential candidate in 1988, and at that time a former Republican congressman, and also the controversial Arizona governor, Evan Mecham. David told me that my booked guests were the most popular and in-demand appearances on his show. There was a synergy that just worked for the both of us. By observation and osmosis, I learned a lot from him. So from 1984 up until 1990 was the time frame of our relationship. He helped inspire me to take this message that I took to the airwaves and started a weekly show in Dallas in 1990. That gave me the impetus to seek a paid radio show position that took me to Idaho Falls, Idaho at KID Radio for a weekday afternoon show. And soon thereafter, actually 7 months later, I was hired to replace Chuck Harder at the Sun Radio Network, which then eventually led me to joining Chuck at For the People Radio Network. And then my final national syndicated network was Talk America Radio Network. I worked with the legendary Chuck Harder on the People's Radio Network. Then later, my show aired just before Morton Downey Jr. out of Dallas via the Talk America Radio Network. I think David and I shared a few mentions of those days and my entry into talk radio. David was a natural behind the mic and very comfortable and confident in his role. He was very politically astute. He helped pave the way for conservatives to be on the air as talk radio host. Rush came after David Gold. Rush was discovered in Sacramento, California, where he became the understudy and then eventual replacement for Morton Downey Jr. Later, ABC Radio Networks hired him and brought him to WABC in New York City in 1988 to launch his show. David worked in other markets on great stations that include KSFO in San Francisco. David was a true trailblazer and pioneer for the genre of conservative talk radio. He began his talk radio career in Denver in the mid-1970s, later working in Tampa, Miami, Boston, Dallas, and San Francisco. I have read so many comments and some tributes for David and his remarkable radio career and how profoundly he touched so many loyal listeners. He inspired and influenced me to embark on this talk radio path. I am also grateful for all the interviews that he had granted to our guest over the years. I felt led to share with you my fond memories of David and how he impacted my life for the better in so many amazing ways. I am proud to call David a mentor and later an esteemed colleague. David, you are missed and will be missed, and I share this tribute in remembrance of you. So that's almost verbatim, although I can't help but chime in and ad-lib what I wrote, and it's been published at my Substack. And yes, I do have a Substack for tomdonahuereports.substack.com. Also on my LinkedIn page, which of course would be under my name, Tom Donahue. I think the section is called The Pulse. And Radio Online picked up my tribute and covered that as well. So until we meet again, Tom Donahue Reports in the Briefing. This has been my remembrance and tribute to David Gold.